Hi guys, it's Daily English Elise. 안녕하세요 여러분. 데일리 문학 델문입니다. 오늘은 한국인들이 영어를 할 때 가장 자주 실수하는 6가지에 대해서 다뤄볼 건데요. So today we're going to be talking about top 6 things that non-native English speakers make. And over the past couple of years of teaching, I felt there were a couple of common mistakes that students make timelessly. Now, I'm not putting a hierarchy between these listings. I'm just saying these are probably one of the most common ones that I've dealt with. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen it any differently. So, moving on straight to number 1. Articles. And articles are words that come in front of nouns to kind of fill it up. So, examples of a, an, the. So let's look at some of the example sentences here. So the first sentence would be, it's not teacher's fault. The word teacher here is a noun, so unless it's given a specific name, it needs to have a or the. So the correct way of saying this sentence would be, it's not the teacher's fault. Or actually, it would be wrong to say it's not a teacher's fault, because if you're talking about someone's fault, you're being specific. So you would have to put the specific word, the, on front. Let's move on to another example. The next sentence is, only thing I could see was food because I was so hungry. What's going on wrong here? The problem with this sentence is that you would need to put the in front of only. So you would say, it would sound like this. The only thing I could see was food in front of me because I was so hungry. And now the reason why food doesn't have a or an or the article in front is because food is a plural word. Now, one thing to be careful of are abstract nouns. Abstract nouns are things or objects that you can't quite see, and therefore you wouldn't include the articles in front of it. One example would be, I show the love. What's going on wrong here is that love is an emotion or a feeling that you can't really see. So therefore you wouldn't place the in front. And it should sound like this. I show love to my parents. I show love to my sister. I show love to my boyfriend, which I don't have. Another mistake that many of my students commonly made was when they write essays, they will refer to writers or authors and how they portray their feelings. So for example, Shakespeare presents an ambition in Act 2, Scene 1. So like I said with abstract nouns, when you can't see a feeling or an emotion, you would not include an article. So when you say Shakespeare presents ambition, the word ambition is an emotion in itself. So you would not write an in front of ambition. So it should sound like, Shakespeare presents ambition in Macbeth in blah, 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 blah. So the next common mistake my students make is abbreviation. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, oh, abbreviations are easy to do. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. But it actually makes a lot of difference, especially when you kind of speak with other people to distinguish whether you're a native speaker or not. For example, unless you're in a formal meeting or in a place where you have to speak formally, people wouldn't normally say, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. You would probably just abbreviate it shortly and say, hey, my name's so-and-so. And also when you normally talk with your friends or you just have a simple chat and you introduce yourself saying what kind of an undergraduate course you're taking, you wouldn't normally say, oh, I studied Bachelor of Arts in English Education. Rather, you would just abbreviate it and say, oh, I studied BA in English Education. The next common mistakes that people make are the difference between plural and singular. So if I am to give an example sentence, it's a very short one. It's he sit. What's going on wrong here is the sentence he sits needs a verb conjugation. So although it is right to say that I sit down or I sat down, when it's a he or a she, you would say he sits or she sits. Another simple sentence would be, the sign over there tell me to be careful. Again, tell is a verb, so you need to put an S afterwards. So the correct way of saying it would be, the sign over there tells me to be careful. Now be careful of double plurals. Double plurals is when a student or a person uses two plurals at the same time, and that would also be wrong. So a wrong example of double plural would be, the signs tells me. You would either have to get rid of one of the S's. So for example, it would be, the sign tells me, or the signs tell me. So remember, double plural is a no-no. Also, one thing to be aware of or be careful of is nouns that are already a plural in itself. For example, the word information or people, they are already a plural in itself, so you shouldn't put an S after it. So an example sentence would be, there are a lot of informations. And I myself have made this mistake a couple of times actually. You shouldn't put the S after the information. So the correct way of saying the sentence would be, there are a lot of information here, there, over there. The fourth most commonly made mistake is speaking or writing in one same tense throughout the whole time. So an example sentence would be, I go there last week. I go to school last week. What's very wrong here is that you are talking about the past, that you have been to that place or somewhere last week. So you should change go to I went. I went there last week would be the correct way of saying the sentence. It's a small change, but it makes a difference. An example of a longer sentence would be, they got up so early, not even the adults are awake. Now, although this sentence might sound pretty correct because, it's long and you think, there's nothing wrong with it. If you look at it carefully, they got up early, they got up so early is talking about the past tense, that they have already gotten up. If it's in the present tense, it's they get up early in the morning. But no, it's got, so it's in the past tense. And then you move on to the second part of the sentence and it says, not even the adults are awake. We are talking in the present tense. So you either have to change either one to make it all present tense or all past tense. So there are two ways of saying this or correcting this, and it would be, they got up so early that not even the adults were awake. Or, they get up so early in the mornings that not even the parents are awake. Moving on to the fifth most commonly made mistakes that kind of show that you're not a native speaker is prepositions. So an example sentence that would be wrong is, I live at London or I live at Seoul. The problem with saying at is, although that it's a directing word, they're mainly used to point at or direct at specific buildings. So for example, if you're in the house, you would say, I'm at my house. But you wouldn't say, I'm in my house. So if you're living in a kind of broad area, you would say, I live in London or I live in Seoul. So I've already kind of mentioned at, but another wrong sentence of using at would be, see you in school. So the problem here is you're not inside the school, you would see the person at the building itself. So you would say, see you at school. Another way of using the word at would be to direct at a specific time. So for example, you would say, see you guys at 5 or See you guys at 3 o'clock. But there is one exclusion. When you say the sentence, see you guys at 10 minutes, that is extremely, extremely wrong. And I don't know how else I can explain this better, but the word at, if you translate it in Korean, would be 에, 어이. So if I say, see you at 5, that would translate in Korean to 5시에 만나자. But if I say, see you at 10 minutes, I would be saying 10분에 만나자, which kind of sounds off in Korean as well. What you would normally say is 10분 안에 만나자. And in English, 안에 would be translated as in. So instead of saying, see you at 10 minutes, you would say, see you in 10 minutes. And another really important one would be, I'm in the bus. Although it may sound right because you are inside the car, you would say, yes, I'm inside the car. That's the right way of saying it. But you wouldn't say, I'm in the bus. You would say that you are on the bus because you're not inside the bus, you're sitting on the bus, if that makes sense. And finally, but definitely not the least, the sixth most commonly made mistakes that kind of show that you're not a native speaker is changing verbs into nouns. So an example sentence would be, the mention of love. It might sound right, but the word mention is actually a verb. It's an acting word. So you wouldn't say the mention of love. You would need to change mention into a noun, which would be mentioning. So the correct way of saying it would be the mentioning of love. And you could use it in phrases such as, there was no mentioning of love in this book, only horror stories. And in the same way, you wouldn't say the sentence, the teacher didn't mentioning me in the register. You would change the mentioning noun into a verb. The teacher didn't mention me in the register. And another sentence that I've kind of seen students make are sentences like, she asked what is happen. Again, the word happen here is a noun in itself. And in order to change it into a verb, you would have to say, she asked what is happening. Or another way of saying it could be, she asked what was going to happen. So the word to would be the verb, so you wouldn't have to change happen into happening. It would just be, she asked what is going to happen. And I know most of the times, changing verbs into nouns and vice versa could be quite difficult. For example, the verb to evacuate, when you change it, you wouldn't change it to ing, it would be evacuation, ION. And there are many rules and exceptions in English that you can't simply explain logically. Sometimes they're just set rules that you have to learn, which sucks, but once you get used to it, it kind of grows in you. So that's it. There you go. I've kind of explained the 6 most common mistakes that people make. It gives away from the fact that you're not a native speaker. And the best advice I can give you to practice with these is to continue to hear lots of English. Just go, well, not the news, unless you... Unless you're actually interested in the news, you like listening to it on a daily basis, I would just say go watch movies, go on Netflix, turn on the Korean subtitles because I think it's important. But it's just getting used to it in the ear, and what's more important than getting used to it in the ear is to speak it out loud. And it's important that you stay confident, because once a person sounds confident, there is nothing that's going to stop them. And the more you talk, the more you listen, the less mistakes you'll start to make. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you have liked watching this video. And if there are any other videos that you would like me to make, comment down in the comment section below. Thank you. Bye.